Thank you again for joining us at the next edition of our 49er Industry Chat. My name is Noemi Guevara, and it's my pleasure as a Director of Alumni Engagement to welcome you to this chat. Before we start, we would like to inform you this session is being recorded and it will live on demand on our website at csulb.edu/alumni. We also encourage you to use our Q&A box located below to submit any questions for our guest speaker today. And now I would like to introduce our moderator for this chat, Kim Armstrong. Kim is a triple-time alumna, earning her bachelor's and 2 master's degrees in 1988, 1991, and 1994. She currently serves as Vice President for the CSULB Alumni Council. Kim, thank you for moderating this chat today, and now I pass it on to you.
Thank you, Noemi, and welcome everyone. We are really excited and I have to say deeply honored to have Gordon T. Hughes with us today. I am excited to read this background, and I know that several of his friends are probably joining in today from his fraternity. So welcome to them, as well as alum and as well as some students that might be on today. Gordon T. Hughes Jr. is a proud Long Beach State alum holding a Bachelor of Arts degree in history. Gordon is a partner, producer, and investor of theater productions on Broadway, London's West End, and other venues throughout the United States and internationally. Among his shows is the current revival of An American in Paris, which won 4 Tony Awards, and Come From Away, which opened at the Schoenfeld Theater in Broadway in February 2017. From 1994 to 2010, he was president and CEO of American Business Media, who repositioned the association from a traditional publishing group to a global organization of business information providers. Other positions include vice president and station manager of WCAU-TV in Philadelphia, and VP of marketing for CBS Television stations for the 1992 Winter Olympic Games. Gordon received 2 Emmys as producer of sports and entertainment events, Media Industry News Lifetime Achievement Award, and Crain's Media Business Lifetime Media Innovator Award. Wow, it is a deep and is a huge honor to welcome Gordon. So welcome Gordon to our 49er Industry Chat today. I'm over the moon. It has been amazing to get to know a little bit, to meet you and connect. And I think everybody is just really excited to hear your story today.
Well, thanks, Kim, and thanks everybody at Cal State Long Beach. I enjoyed a great career there, and it gave me a lot of the tools that I can use today for what I have been doing and what I'm currently doing. Kim, as you and I chatted, I thought I would start with where I am today. Direct from Broadway, DFB Productions is the name of my company. We started it as a kind of a different approach to Broadway. We started it as like a fund. Anybody who's in the Wall Street end and finances knows if you raise a fund, you raise money. And we had 4 partners, and we raised about $1.3 million, $1.5 million. And the idea was to, they would give us the money, and then we would bet on the racehorses. We would pick the plays and the musicals that we wanted to go in. We started with plays because they're less expensive, and I'll get into each of them that we did do and why we picked them. So it's kind of like if you go to Las Vegas, you don't want to put all of your money on a roulette wheel on 00. So we figured if we did 5 plays, that 2 of them would be abject failures, 1 might float, another one might do okay, and 1 would be successful. And that was the concept behind DFB Productions. Our first, the first play we did was La Bête, and we talked about La Bête, and it's my first play, and I went with the big guys that were in the company, and I went along with them, not realizing, and we had good reasons for it. We had marvelous talent. We had David Hyde Pierce from the show Frasier and a lot of other Broadway shows. We had Laura Lumley, who had been a big star in Great Britain with a show called Absolutely Fabulous. And we had Mark Rylance, who was the foremost comedic British actor today. So anyway, that was all good. Sonia Friedman was going to be our executive producer. She had just come off a year where she'd won the Tony for Kaja, and we thought, and then my other partners were David Berlin, Scott Landis. So I had a lot of big names. I didn't think about the show, which was the story of Moliere done in couplets. Not a big crowd going to come to see that. So we maybe got 5 or 6 cents on the dollar, recouped that. So that was pretty much our failure. The next one out was Time Stands Still with Laura Linney, who was an absolute delight. Not only, she went to Brown, she's really, really smart. She's a great actress, as all of you know. And she, as a matter of fact, the night of the party, they always have an opening party, and I'd introduced her to a lot of people, and she really worked the room, and she'd just gotten remarried. And, you know, after being on stage for that long, she wanted to just go home. And I walked her out to the door and I said, "Thank you so much for doing all this and being with us." And she said, "No, I thank you, because you're the guys that get us up and get us running." That's a smart actor. That's a smart actor. So anyway, that show did okay. Laura got nominated for a Tony. Then the next show that we went into was, then we decided we wanted to stick with Sonia Friedman. So we went with not a great move. Arcadia with Tom Stoppard. Well, of course, he's a brilliant writer, and he's way over my head. But we thought, okay, we'll bring something great to Broadway, and that got about 6 cents on the dollar back. Then the next one we went to was House of Blue Leaves with Ben Stiller and Edie Falco, who was just coming off The Sopranos. She was very popular. We had a great cast. It's a great story. It was the 3rd time on Broadway. The first 2 times it had been pretty successful, and it just didn't work. For whatever reason, it didn't work. Then I went to work with an executive producer by the name of Nell Nugent, who's just brilliant. And she did a show called Stickfly. And it was backed by Alicia Keys. She was the lead producer. So we knew we had deep pockets. Kenny Leon, who's one of few, but probably the foremost African-American director on Broadway today, is just a wonderful director. And that was a great, great show. She wasn't a star, but it was her first time on Broadway, Condola Rashad, and she was actually nominated for a Tony her first time on Broadway. So I felt with all of these plays, I've always wanted to kind of feel like I'm giving Broadway some support, you know, giving something. And with her, I could put her nomination on my gun belt. So after Stickfly, we finally struck some gold with John Leguizamo, who was just a prince of a guy to work with. I mean, way too many late nights with him, but fun late nights. And so the show was Ghetto Clown. It was really the story of his life as a guy from Colombia. He was born in the United States. His parents were born in Colombia, growing up in a Puerto Rican neighborhood. And so all the Puerto Rican kids would beat him up. And he wasn't a big guy, so the way he would escape it is he could tell jokes, and he finally made them laugh, and they quit beating him up. And his teacher actually discovered his talent and sent him to school at an academic, a Broadway type school, acting school. And from there on, it's been history for him. He's just a wonderful guy and I think a great talent. So that's a pretty quick zip through a lot of stuff. But then one of my partners had quit to open a vineyard in Napa, California. My CFO had died in a surfing accident in Hawaii, and my third partner decided that he wanted to run a little theater, be an artistic director, and he went and did that, and all of a sudden I was the last man standing. But by that time I had met so many people like the Rogers, Roger Berlin and Roger Horchow. I had a good cadre, a good team that would invite me in. And being a producer is all about the money, unless you have extra talent. My talent and my sweat equity was marketing. I helped a lot because I think one of the weakest spots in Broadway is its advertising. So I think I made a couple of marks there. But in any event, I got invited into Peter and the Starcatcher, which won 5 Tonys. And I had been on the board of directors at the New York Theater Workshop when Disney came to us and wanted to work out the play there. More than a reading, do a real workout. And so I'd seen it from its inception. And when I got invited in, I had to wait until I was off the board before I could take that. It's a conflict of interest. So anyway, I got involved with that on my own. And then, and that was a wonderful experience. And then probably the light of my life happened, and that was An American in Paris. And, you know, we got the music rights. And once we had the music rights, the lead producer went to Christopher Weldon, who is a star of the ballet, New York City Ballet. And he created a magical musical with Irving Berlin's music. There was some tap, there was some modern, but it was basically a ballet. And Robbie Fairchild, another American ballet, New York City Ballet guy. Leanne Cope was the ingenue, big as a minute. She's like 5'1", and she was just a marvelous athlete. As in the cast, it was a real family experience. So we opened in Paris. What a night that was. I mean, just opening in Paris at Theater du Châtelet, which, if you go to Paris, is the only theater in Paris that operates in English. And we had to do French subtitles, which was kind of fun. But in any event, that was it. And then we came to the Palace. I played the Palace. You know, a kid played the Palace. Yeah. And it had a great run there. And then we went to London, and then it went. Basically, we farmed it out, and it's been worldwide ever since. And we closed in Paris, but Leanne stayed with the show for the whole thing, and she was in Australia, and I think they closed in Shanghai on the tour, and then we actually closed in Paris. Well, then I got picked up by a good friend to step into Come From Away. And what a show. Randy Adams and Sue Forrest and Christopher Ashley, and they started at the La Jolla Theater in California, just down the beach from you guys. And I remember sitting on the train, commuting from New York down to my farm, and I read that script, and I was laughing and I was crying, and that people on the train must have thought I was insane, because it was every emotion is going through me. And I said, this is a musical that has to be put on. And so we opened in Laguna, La Jolla, and then we went to we went to Toronto, we played the Ford Theater in Washington, DC. We actually went to Gander and had 3 days in Gander.
Now, can I ask you a quick question about that? Because and I would dare say, I think everybody knows about Come From Away, but there may be some folks on today that may not necessarily know. Can you give a quick snippet about why Gander is important, and just a snippet about the storyline of that one? Because I think it's important to underscore what you're saying.
So everybody says you're going to do a musical about 9/11. How do you do that? Well, it wasn't about 9/11. 9/11 was the side story. So on 9/11, 37 planes left from all over the world to come to the United States, to New York, to Dallas, to Washington. And as after they had taken off, and they had, about over 7,000 passengers on 37 airplanes. And after they were forced to land, and they couldn't enter the United States because we didn't know what was going on. So they landed in Gander, Newfoundland, Canada. And that was a big air base, because during the Second World War, that's where we shipped everything over to the British. So it's a well-done airport. But 37 airplanes, super jets on that tarmac was something. There are about 7,000 people that live in Gander, and they opened up their city to all of the people from all around the world. And I mean, it was everybody's story. Now, we focused on 4 primary people. Beverly, who was the pilot for American Airlines. And I'm not going to do the whole thing, but she's got a marvelous story. She was the first woman to be a pilot in the first seat. We had a really cute part of the story was the gay couple who thought, well, here we are in Gander with all these lumberjacks, they're going to beat us to, and so there's a scene in a bar where they have to drink and they're talking to each other, and the guy slips and he calls his partner honey, and everybody looks around and he goes, oh my God. And somebody goes up and he goes, are you guys gay? And he goes, well, yeah, we are. And he goes, my sister's gay. And then somebody says, my brother-in-law's gay. And it was just, so it was all warm and about humanity. And of course, in the era that we've been going through, this is the kind of story you want told. So I hope that gives.
Thank you. Yeah, no, perfect. I just want folks to have the gravity of why you would play there and why that story had to come to the screen. Yeah, or to the stage.
Well, it is coming to the screen.
I know I slipped up. I'm sorry.
No, listen, that's okay. It's all freeform. So then I had a goofy friend, because I had worked at CBS a million years ago, and I had a friend by the name of Floaty Suarez who decided he had somehow, Floaty, very clever guy, he'd gotten the rights to about half of Sonny and Cher's music. And then one of the other guys, Scott Landis, who I'd worked with on Labette, had the other half. And Floaty said, how am I going to get this from MCA? And Scott, because he'd worked at Michael Ovitz shot CAA, when Roger was Michael Ovitz and Roger somebody or other. Anyway, he was running MCA. So that's how we got the rights for all of Sonny and Cher's music. Sonny had never given any of the rights to Cher. She never got a dime out of that, any of that. That's why she's such a brilliant performer, but also a brilliant businesswoman. So she rekindled. Anyway, it was the Cher show. It was all about Cher. And we brought Bob Mackey back to do the costumes, and he got a Tony for the costumes. And oh gosh, the woman who starred in it, Stephanie Block. Stephanie Block played Cher. There were three Chers. There was Baby Cher, Cher Bono, and Post Bono. And so Stephanie got the Tony Award for that. So we got picked up 2 Tonys there. So now I'm sort of where I am right now, which is with 2 musicals. One is a new musical, Christopher Ashley, La Jolla Theater. It's Diana, about Diana. Diana, new musical is the title of it. It's all originally scored. It covers her from the age of 19. That's how old she was when she got married to Charles. She was a baby until the car crash, and it covers her life there was 3 in the marriage, that kind of thing. We had a great run at La Jolla, and then we went directly to Broadway, where we were up for 66 days and got COVIDed. The other one I'm working on is a revival of a musical that is one of my top 5, and it's called Company. And Company is the story about a guy named Bobby, who it's his 35th birthday, and he's never been married, and he's the playboy of the Western world, and he's dating flight attendants, and he's doing all this stuff. Well, we had a redo on it, and the music's all by Stephen Sondheim.
Oh yeah.
So we got the director changed it. So instead of B-O-B-B-Y, it's B-O-B-B-I-E, Bobby, with a woman. And now she's 35. And she's the playgirl of the universe. And she's dating flight pilots, and she's flying, she's just having the time of her life. And they're all trying to get this Bobby character, to get married and settle down. And the music that goes with it, I mean, I'll tear up just talking about it. I'm so easy. I'm just too easy for this stuff. Anyway, so that's it. And we got closed there. So I kind of wanted to talk about.
But before we leave the productions, do you mind? I am getting so many questions. Now we can circle back to the other ones, but this one I think is timely for Come From Away. So can I ask one quickie about Come From Away? Okay, and then we'll go through the last part, and then I have, like I said, I'm building all the questions, but I think this one's timely. So someone else from the audience who also loves Come From Away said that they really appreciated that it did not have an intermission,
Right.
as it allowed the emotion to continue and really, really, really crescendo. I agree. What was there a specific thought process for deciding not to use an intermission, and was that really difficult to sell you guys as producers?
Yeah, oh yeah, because here, I mean, think of this. Intermission, what do people do?
Spend money on
They buy stuff, they buy
trinkets and-
swag, they buy t-shirts, they buy
yeah.
drinks, they buy, yeah, I mean, you're cutting into your profit margin. But good producers can figure out a way to do that. And that show, I guess I'm not giving anything away, but I mean, the show, the startup costs and everything were not extreme. I mean, I can tell you that one of the reasons share crashed was because the startup cost was $16 million. And if you take 10 away from that, you got a basic figure for come from away thereabouts. So we didn't have an investment that was dragging us down. We could experiment, we could do things. And if you remember the set, it's a wonderful set. It's a very clever set, but it's not an expensive set. So you can do things if you've got a good director and a good stage manager and a good lighting guy, person, you can do all that stuff, and you don't need to throw $1 million in. People tell you, if you're doing an ad, do it in black and white first. Color will only make it better if it works in black and white. So that's kind of that attitude for that show. And Randy and Sue just totally got it. So we had some conversations, but they were not, they didn't take long.
That's great. Yeah. So you were able to balance the art and the spirit of the play with the financial production.
Yes.
And everything else. It's a great story. It's a great case study, I think, as well.
It is a good case.
There's probably doctoral dissertations being written right now about that.
Harvard B School is doing a thing, which reminds me. Now there was one play that I did. Actually, it was a baby musical. I'll call it a baby musical. It was called Disenchanted. We taken all the characters from. Did you see it?
I've heard of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, because it was in North Hollywood when we did it out in Los Angeles area. But in any event, at the El Portal Theater. So we took all of the, you'd think of them as Disney characters, and everybody says, well, you can't take this. Disney stole them from Grimm's fairy tale. Okay, so Cinderella and Snow White and all of these women, it was all women, were disenchanted. Why? Because when they got the glass slipper, or they got the kiss on the lips, or whatever it was, and they married the prince, and then they had to go to his castle and shine his armor and vacuum his castle and dust it, and they were disenchanted. And that was the thing. So we got this thing rolling, and we're doing it down in Orlando, and I get a call from my partner, Don France, and he goes, Gordon, you won't believe this. The greatest thing has happened. And I thought, oh my God, what do we get, a sponsor for it? He goes, oh, no. He said, I just got 12 boxes of confetti free. That's how we were managing the bottom line, because there's a scene where they have to throw confetti. And so we had 12 boxes of confetti free. I mean, so sometimes it's not just like doing kajafa. It's like you got to get in and get your fingernails dirty. Tie the ropes to the bags of sand, you know.
Exactly.
Anyway, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what I'll call new models, because I think COVID has been a hideous experience to go through for all of us. But it's teaching us new ways of doing things. And one of the new ways of doing things isn't all that new, but it's coming more in mass now, and that is putting Broadway on a television screen, whether it's streaming or whatever, whether it's Netflix or Apple or Prime or whatever it is. And of course, Disney led the charge. And of course, the biggest one has been Hamilton, but Hamilton's certainly not the first to do this.
Right.
So what we're doing with Diana is we've made a deal with Netflix, and we hope that Diana will be streaming late summer. We've had some delays, but we hope it will be out. And Company, which has just been done on television twice now, back in 1970, And of course, everything's more advanced and we can do it better and lighting it better and sound better, et cetera, is probably going to come out in the fourth quarter. And there, you talked about cutting an intermission. The heat on putting them on a television screen has been just hell. It's just been hell. And again, I look at Randy and Sue as being two of the leaders. Beth Williams, I think, is a wonderful producer. She's just embraced this and is working on it. Those that get it understand it's a marketing tool. So if you're sitting in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and my God, you and the little woman are going to go to New York and see a play. And what should we see? Well, we can see that play that we saw on television on Netflix. And some people don't understand that. And so we've got to sell, those of us that have figured out that it's a marketing tool. I mean, what, did you ever buy anything you didn't know about? So that's kind of the mantra that I use when I go in to pitch it. And so anyway, so those two will be coming out. And I think you're going to see more and more of that. And it's going to be at varying levels and it's going to be in varying degrees. And, one night I was at Lincoln Center. I go to Lincoln Center on New Year's Eve, and I was seeing Carnival of the Animals with Nathan Lane that night. And I noticed these cameras were incredible. And friends of ours were out in Santa Barbara, and they saw my wife and I sitting in the third row, and in Santa Barbara, they saw us in New York on New Year's Eve. So that was the thing that really tripped me to streaming media. And of course, my background in television and the internet make it more understandable for me to embrace that, maybe perhaps a little bit quicker than other producers. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. I did a little research. There are 129 shows running that you can get on the internet today. So if you Google shows that you like, you might be able to find one that you like.
I was watching Hello Dolly over the weekend.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's great. Good for you. Well, you were really, it's great to talk to somebody who loves theater. So anyway, so I also wanted to tip my hat quickly to Cal State Long Beach. Through a series of circumstance, like most of the kids that go there, I had to put myself through school. And I had a major blowout with my dad. And so he said, well, you want to go to school? You do it yourself. So I did. But I got this great job working at TV City up in Hollywood. And then that led to a job at KNXT, KCBS TV Channel 2, also in Los Angeles. So I was working for the network in the network news and working in the local newsroom. So when I got out of it, I went to a junior college for 2 years. And so when I decided to go to university, I wanted one that had a good reputation. I wanted one that was close to Los Angeles. I wanted one that was economical for me. Living in Long Beach was a lot cheaper than living up in Hollywood. Plus it had a beach. I like that. And so I got accepted at Cal State Long Beach. And in those days, the California State College University system was the best in the country. I mean, the SUNY schools in New York are modeled after the state system in California. It's a wonderful institution. So I'm delighted to be able to, participate in things like this because I want to pay back a little bit, the best I can. So I got, so I worked there and I kind of worked my way up, and then I got into programming and I was writing and producing TV shows. And I'd done a little bit on the Sonny and Cher show. These are shows that probably most of you guys don't even know about. I was a child actor on Ozzie and Harriet and Leave It to Beaver. So there's some stations that play those old shows. And if you see a crowd of kids, I might be in there. But anyway, so that was kind of my background. I couldn't act because I couldn't remember lines. And I remember I was trying to get the role of Curly in Oklahoma in high school. And I was an okay singer, but I couldn't remember the lines, and wasn't anything in your ear in those days. So you couldn't yell line. And so I went behind the camera. And I had 25 years at CBS in a variety of capacities, ending up for marketing for what they call O&Os, owned and operated television stations, and for the Winter Olympic Games. And that was great. And then I left, and I did marketing for the Outdoor Advertising Association of America, the OAAA, and we referred to our product as litter on a stick. So we had to do something to make it sexy for media companies to place their ads on it. And so I along with an ad agency, we created an ad campaign called Outdoor. It's not a medium, it's a large. And it took off like a rocket ship. It was one of the best.
That's clever.
It was really clever. And so we did that. And there was a woman named Bernice Cantor who wrote for New York Magazine, and she did a story on us on the campaign. And that catapulted me to American Business Press, which I changed to American Business Media because we were in print, in person, and online. And that took time to teach those guys that it wasn't about the magazine. You know, they'd have a story, and instead of breaking it that day on the internet, they'd wait a week and put it in a magazine. The thinking was just so arcane. It was unbelievable. So I did that, and I was there for, oh gosh, 16 years. And I turned it into a global thing, and we just had a ball with it. I really did. But at the end of that 16 years, my bag of tricks was empty. And I thought, I'm going to go back to my roots, to entertainment. And so that's how I came back with Direct from Broadway Productions, DFB Productions. So that's kind of my background, my story. So the title is No Boundaries, No Borders. I guess if I have a leave away message, that is, I've never stuck with anything in my life. I mean, I've had a core thing that I wanted to get close to, but the days of getting a gold watch after 50 years at a company are pretty much gone. And, unless you're a doctor or a policeman or, those certain jobs where you just do that. I mean, most guys go into the Army, they become a policeman, and then they become a carpenter. I mean, even at that, a lot of people, like my wife's family, they're all home builders. Her father was a home builder, her brother, all of her nephews and nieces. She left with a dream of going into the fashion business. And so she left and went on an entirely different path and had different great jobs, Levi Strauss and Omnico and I don't know, a bunch of other companies, finally ending up at Fashion Institute in Los Angeles. So use each job you've got, soak up as much as you can so that the guy you're working for, when he or she is promoted, they don't look around, they just tap you to do that job. That's certainly one thing when you stay with a company. But because the woman that was working for Chevron in Angola, I mean, she had a marvelous career there. I was fascinated with her career, what she was able to do with one company. That's not the norm. So I would say take what you learn wherever you are and use it, and don't necessarily use it to be promoted. Use it to do a job that you want to do, that you would love doing. And my dad told me early on, if you enjoy it, it's not a job. It's not a job. You're having fun doing it. And I'm one of those very, very fortunate people who, I can't even count how many years I've been working, but it's always been a pleasure and a delight to get up and do what I do when I was doing it. So that's kind of it for me. So I'm ready for questions if you've got.
I have a bunch of questions that have been stacking up, and I only interrupted a couple times because I wanted to keep you on point. But so we got a lot of questions from the audience asking, okay, wait a minute, all this in television and broadcasting and theater and Olympic Games and Emmys, you're a history major. So riddle us this. I think that's
right to my point. This is a great question.
What about history connected you into that? And were there skills, or were there transferable skills?
Yeah, history is great. I mean, so I loved history. I like it. And at one point I was toying with going into the State Department because I quit college for a year and I bummed around North Africa and stayed in youth hostels. And I learned more in those youth hostels than I ever did in college. I mean, I've got to tell you, when I was going to school, they didn't talk after the Second World War. I mean, they didn't even talk about Korea, for Christ's sake. So I learned a lot. And so I think that history is a wonderful balancer. When I was working in Los Angeles, and I was the head of the sales department there, and I had worked on a show called Ralph Story's Los Angeles. So I grew up in LA, so I knew the history of it. So CBS was doing a mini series called The Gray and the Blue, about the Civil War. And I went into the head of the programming department. We had a show called Two on the Town. And I said, here's what I need from you. I need 3 shows that tie to the Civil War, and then I can package them with a network and I can make the station a ton of money. And he said, well, we're California. We had nothing to do with the Civil War. I said, well, we did. I mean, San Pedro, there was a fortress there. And in the middle, out near Palm Springs, there was an area called Two Bunch Palms where the Camel Corps was. And this history was to stop the Confederates from stealing the gold from California. So that helped me in my career. That knowing that kind of stuff helps you, and it also helps you write, and it also helps you. But I also minored in television communications, and I don't know, Kim, if I told you, but I was one of the guys that helped start the radio station. So
that's right. We did talk a little bit about that because I worked at the radio station for many years and I was on campus.
So what happened was, what is it? K Jazz?
Well, now it's it was KLON prior. And I think it was even one other, but yeah, now it's KK. Oh, I can't even say the call sign.
K Jazz. So I listen to it when I'm out there. I actually turn on to that, and that's classical music. Those are the two. So we would broadcast, but we broadcast the football games to the dorms. Our stick was about as big as my finger. That's how we started. So when I got there in 63, I started, graduated in 66. We filed with the FCC to get the license, and but it was the kids in that department, that the TV radio department, that's really kind of helped get the license.
Yeah, and I think there is, and I'm going to say, if I am incorrect, I hope I don't go on blast for this. I think it's 21 West Media now, which is the student run. They go out and they do remotes, and they broadcast it digitally. Yeah, it's wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was maybe the great grandfather.
Yes.
And the other thing I did there was we started a fraternity. We started a colony, Theta Chi fraternity in 63, and became a full chapter in 65. But again, those skills, all the things that I did, I was the public relations commissioner on campus. We did a newsletter. I don't even know if they have that anymore, but it was, so we told all the kids what was the calendar and all that stuff that was going on, and there was editorial content. But we also told the community what was going on. So, people could come to the football games, or could come to a play, or could come to whatever, the speakers bureau that was putting something on. So I learned a lot at Cal State. And I guess the takeaway there is, again, you put all those tools that you learn a lot, because you never know where you're going to need them. So history major, you bet, helped me years later.
That's right. Okay, yes, and I stand corrected. I was so close, and I should know this. It's 22 West Radio. How can I miss that? Yes, KKJZ HD3 on 88.1. So
well, that's a lot to remember.
They're still out there doing amazing things, and the students are incredible. So you helped start something incredible that we're still benefiting from.
Great.
Okay, we have a few other questions. So I'm going to go back to and thank you for clarifying that, because I can't believe I messed that up. Okay. Let's see, sorry. Oh, this is a great question, because you talk quite a bit about your network and folks you've had opportunities to work with, produce, and things like that. So what advice might you have for someone starting out to build networks like that and build so many relationships?
Yeah, that is good. And it's always hard because, whenever I have a group that I've got to speak to, I always put 3 questions in the audience. And the reason I do that is because people don't want to appear to be not with it, that they might be a couple of steps behind or not be the sharpest knife in the drawer. So nobody wants to ask the first question. So you plant the questions. Does that make sense? So even if you're dealing with talent, I mean, Johnny Carson lived very close to where I lived when I lived in Bel Air. He was just around the corner, and he wouldn't talk to you at all. I mean, you'd see him every day going to work, but And finally, I would just wave and drive on. So I think that, and when I was an usher at CBS Television City, I would always go to the talent, and I would always go to the director and introduce myself. And I might introduce myself to them by name every day that week, so that Gordon Hughes would finally sink into their brains. There was a row of photographs along the wall with all the talent, you know, the Smothers Brothers and Red Skelton and Lucille Ball and whatever. And I would put my picture up there, my photograph, and they would always take it down. But I was always up there, and people would begin to chat with me because I was kind of funny and I talked to fire hydrants anyway. So it was just that kind of thing. So never be reticent to talk to somebody, extend their hand. People like compliments. I mean, if a guy's wearing a great sport coat or something and you say, Jesus, where did you get that coat? That's a really great sport coat. Start a conversation somehow with them, and don't say, I'm your biggest fan. I mean, they don't start with that one. You know, so start on a base level where there's a commonality. I mean, most guys wear a jacket, so the jacket looks greater. A woman, you know, whatever. So I would just say, don't overdo it, but do it.
Right. Now, did you have a mentor? I mean, I know you were, do you have a mentor, or did you have a mentor, and do you have advice on maybe how to get a mentor?
Yeah, that's a tough word, mentor. And I don't know if it's always used properly. I've had people who've given me guidance, who've kept me out of trouble. And it comes sometimes from places you don't necessarily think about. It's not necessarily your boss. I was at a period where women were just beginning to enter the workforce. And I think media, television, magazines, women have always done really well in magazine work, but television was sort of a guy's club. I mean, we've all seen, what's that movie about the anchorman in San Diego with Will Ferrell?
Oh, Ron Burgundy.
Ron Burgundy. So Ron Burgundy,
yeah.
So that's the way it was when I was starting out, Ron Burgundy. So I guess maybe, you know, it's really funny. I had a mentor, Bertie Hackett, now that I think about it. I met her, I was delivering newspapers as a kid. I delivered the daily news to her, citizen news to her. And I'd have to go up and collect my $1.25 a month from her. And, you know, I talked to her, and it was funny because her niece was Mary Tyler Moore. So it was kind of, you know, I'd always go to look at Mary Tyler Moore. I might have spent a little more time on the front porch than I needed to. But she was working at Channel 2. I'm trying to remember, this is a long time ago. And she helped me get me the job as an usher at TV City. And I could call her and I could say, is anything opening up at KNXT? Can I get my foot in the door there? And she said, well, yeah, yes, I will. You know, you talk to, oh God, it was another woman, interestingly enough. It was another woman. It wasn't Lorraine Hillman, but it was Betty Penny. And Betty Penny hired me. So, yeah, I guess I found, but you know, I never had one person who said, do this, do that. I kind of did.
Sounds like you had some unlikely mentors, which at the end of the day, at the time, you may not have seen it, that they were more than a mentor, right? They were also a sponsor. They helped you.
Well, they helped me get jobs.
Connected you, yeah.
2 instances, they helped me get jobs. And that's why I say no boundaries, no limits. I mean, don't think this way, think that way.
Exactly. You know. Well, this has been amazing. I have one more question in our little bit of remaining time. I know we could talk forever. And so I'm going to say, look into your crystal ball. When do we think of Broadway shows will return? And what is the Broadway theater community thinking about this?
Well, they're pushing it. And what they're saying is that summer, I think that we will be at capacity in some form first quarter of 22. You may have to show up to the theater. Now think about this. When you get on an airplane now and you're strip searched, when you go into a building after 9/11, you had to ID the whole thing. When you go into a theater, this is me. This is me saying this. You're going to have your temperature taken. You're going to have to probably show your vaccination badge that you've had it. You're going to have to reinsure everybody that's sitting cheek to jowl around you that you're not going to infect them.
Right.
Now, different marketplaces like Texas has done away with masks. Mississippi has done away with masks. Good for them, I guess. I won't go to either one of those states soon. I think that New Yorkers, as I know them, are paranoid, schizophrenic, whatever they are, they're crazy, and they're not going to go into a theater and sit with a bunch of people. So what they'll do is they'll probably limit the capacity.
Yeah.
But when they do that, the business model is thrown out the window because the people who own the theaters want the money. So are you going to take 25 cents on the dollar, or are you going to just give up the dollar? So they're going to have to. There's going to be a lot of things that have to go on.
Well, the actors might be impacted too, right? Because they play off the laughter, they play off the emotions of the audience. So
and of course the unions want to be, I don't know if you know this, when you play a theater that has an orchestra pit in New York, whether you need an orchestra or not, you pay for it. Okay, so we're going to have to change our way of doing business. The business model is going to have to change.
yeah,
The security model is going to have to change. And then people, once it comes back, it's going to come roaring back because people are so pent up. It's like the whole economy is going to just, this bill that just passed is wonderful because it's going to now, and then that coupled with the vaccine, it's going to change. But we're going to be living a different life in my view. And I use the airport as the model because nobody thought you were going to be, but now you get around it by getting I've got it. I don't know what it's called, but I get an X on my card when I print it up on my computer, and I can go and I can run past all the people that don't have an X on their pass to get on the plane, the ticket, whatever it is. So I think that new things will be developed, and maybe we'll all be a bit healthier for that. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we absolutely look forward to Diana. We look forward to company and all the other things that you're working on. And I just want to say, I feel like I've made a friend. It has been so lovely today. I really appreciate meeting you. I think everyone that was on today got a lot out of your story and what you shared with us today. And with that, I will say thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it back to Noemi. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, Kim, very much. And everybody at Cal State.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Gordon, for a very engaging conversation today. Before we go, Gordon, if anyone wants to connect with you, are you okay if they were to email us and then we'll share their information with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again for your insights. Thank you for sharing about your industry. We're very thankful for your time. Everyone, we thank you for viewing. Follow us on social media to learn about future programs like this, and we'll see you next time.